1. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, a classic defense of the Christian faith and an explanation of its core beliefs and values. 2. Knowing God by G.I. Packer, a profound and practical exploration of the attributes and character of God and how they affect our relationship with Him. 3. The Discipline of Grace by Jerry Bridges, a helpful guide on how to balance God's grace and our responsibility in the pursuit of holiness. 4. Trusting God by Jerry Bridges, a comforting and encouraging book on how to trust God in every situation, even when life hurts. 5. How Should We Then Live? By Francis A. Schaeffer, a historical and cultural analysis of the rise and decline of Western thought and culture, and how Christians should respond to the challenges of the modern world. 6. The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, an allegorical novel that depicts the journey of a Christian from the city of destruction to the celestial city. 7. The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, an epic fantasy saga that illustrates the themes of good and evil, courage and sacrifice, friendship and loyalty, and the sovereignty of God. 8. Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, a historical romance novel that retells the biblical story of Hosea and Gomer and shows the power of God's love to heal and restore. 9. The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, a satirical and witty book that exposes the tactics and strategies of the devil and his demons to tempt and deceive Christians. 10. Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton, a witty and whimsical book that defends the Christian faith and shows the paradoxes and mysteries of Christianity. 11. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, a beloved series of fantasy novels that allegorically depict the Christian story and themes. 12. The Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer, a devotional classic that challenges Christians to seek God with their whole heart and mind. 13. The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, a memoir of a Dutch Christian woman who survived the Nazi concentration camps and shared the gospel with many. 14. The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a powerful book that contrasts the cheap grace of the world with the costly grace of following Christ. 15. The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, a best-selling book that helps Christians discover their God-given purpose and live it out. 16. Desiring God by John Piper, a theological and practical book that shows how God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. 17. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, a journalistic investigation of the historical evidence for the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. 18. The Shack by William Paul Young, a controversial but popular novel that portrays God as a trinity of persons who invite a grieving man to a healing encounter. 19. Crazy Love by Francis Chan, a challenging and inspiring book that calls Christians to live radically for God's love. 20. The Jesus Storybook Bible by Sally Lloyd Jones, a children's book that tells the story of the Bible as one big story of God's love and redemption. 21. The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis, a devotional classic that teaches Christians how to follow the example of Jesus in humility, obedience, and love. 22. The Hound of Heaven by Francis Thompson, a poetic masterpiece that describes the relentless pursuit of God for the human soul. 23. The Confessions by Augustine of Hippo, a spiritual autobiography that recounts the conversion and struggles of one of the greatest Christian thinkers and saints. 24. The Cross of Christ by John R. W. Stott, a comprehensive and compelling study of the meaning and significance of the Cross of Christ for Christian theology and life. 25. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, a literary masterpiece that explores the themes of free will, morality, suffering, and the existence of God through the lives of a dysfunctional family in Russia. 26. The Pursuit of Holiness by Jerry Bridges, a practical and biblical book that helps Christians understand and apply the call to holiness in their daily lives. 27. The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence, a collection of letters and conversations that reveal the simple and profound way of living in constant communion with God. 28. The Reason for God, Belief in an Age of Skepticism by Timothy J. Keller, a thoughtful and persuasive book that addresses the common doubts and objections that skeptics have about Christianity and provides a rational case for faith. 29. Sacred Romance by Brent Curtis and John Eldredge explores the spiritual dimension of human longing for love and intimacy, framing it as a reflection of God's pursuit of our hearts, offering a perspective on relationships that transcends earthly romance. 30. The Problem of Pain is a book by C.S. Lewis that explores why a good and powerful God allows pain and suffering in the world. He argues that pain is a necessary part of God's love and plan to transform us into His image and prepare us for heaven. 31. Total Truth: Liberating Christianity from Its Cultural Captivity is a book by Nancy Pearcey that challenges Christians to liberate their faith from its cultural captivity and to see it as truth about all reality. She analyzes the public-private split, the secular-sacred divide, and the strategies to develop a Christian worldview in every sphere of life. 32. Gilead by Marilynne Robinson, a lyrical and poignant novel about aging Pastor John Ames reflecting on his life, faith, and relationship with his son, offering wisdom and grace. 33. When God Winks by S.L. Warner, a heartwarming collection of true stories about God's unexpected interventions in people's lives, inspiring hope and faith in times of need. 34. Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, a daily devotional offering personal reflections and prayers that encourage intimacy with Jesus, providing comfort and guidance for each day. 35. The Ragamuffin Gospel by Brennan Manning, a compassionate exploration of God's unconditional love for those who feel unworthy, challenging traditional notions of holiness and embracing grace. 36. Blue Like Jazz by Donald Miller, a candid and humorous memoir of a young man's journey through doubt and skepticism to a rediscovery of faith, challenging conventional Christian stereotypes. 37. Silence by Shusaku Endo, a historical novel exploring the struggles of faith in the face of persecution and silence from God, set in 17th century Japan amid Christian missionaries facing brutal oppression. 38. The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, an imaginative exploration of the afterlife following a bus ride from hell to the outskirts of heaven, where souls grapple with choices of redemption or remaining in their vices. 39. Wild at Heart by John Eldredge, rekindle the wildness and masculinity God designed for men, embracing adventure and leadership in this passionate call to action. 40. The Power of a Praying Wife by Stormy O'Martian, a guide to praying for your husband in specific areas, covering his spiritual, emotional, physical, and relational needs, fostering a stronger marriage. 41. Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, a practical guide to setting healthy boundaries in relationships, work, and personal life, promoting self-respect and preventing emotional and spiritual burnout. 42. The Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster explores spiritual disciplines including prayer, fasting, study, solitude, and service as essential practices for Christian growth and transformation. 43. The Cross and the Switchblade by David Wilkerson, a true story of a young pastor's ministry to gang members in New York City, offering hope and redemption amidst violence and despair. 44. The Insanity of God by Nick Ripken, a gripping account of God's work in persecuted churches around the world, challenging Western assumptions about faith and revealing the resilience of believers in the face of hardship. 45. Captivating by John and Stasi Eldredge, explores the feminine heart and God's design for women, challenging cultural messages and inviting women to embrace their true beauty and strength. 46. The Gospel, According to Jesus by John MacArthur, a comprehensive study of the Gospel of Mark, emphasizing the centrality of Jesus' death and resurrection for salvation and calling for authentic discipleship. 47. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, a challenge to slow down and live a more intentional, Christ-centered life, resisting the cultural obsession with busyness and rediscovering the rhythms of grace. 48. Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland, a meditation on the heart of Jesus as revealed in Scripture, emphasizing his tenderness, compassion, and love for sinners, offering comfort and hope. 49. The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson explores the concept of prayer as circling God with petitions and praise, offering strategies for effective prayer and experiencing God's power. 50. The Jesus I Never Knew by Philip Yancey, a personal exploration of Jesus' life and character, revealing his compassion, humanity, and challenges commonly held assumptions about him, inviting readers to rediscover a fresh understanding of Jesus.